Hello, my name is Spencer, and welcome back to my hobby channel. I enjoy sharing my experiences learning diorama making, miniature painting, and other various hobby projects. A lot of the miniatures I paint come from tabletop board games. The only tabletop game I regularly play is the phenomenal Star Wars Armada. These squadrons are the remainder of my unpainted Imperial fleet. Last year, I made a few videos showing how to paint the more standard Imperial squadrons ranging from TIE Fighters to TIE Interceptors, however these squadrons are a bit more specialized. These shuttles and squadrons include Lambda class shuttles, VT-49 decimators, Mandalorian gauntlet fighters, TIE Phantoms, and the iconic TIE Defenders. These are the final squadrons to complete my Imperial fleet. To begin the painting process, I need to free all of the starships from their tabletop stands. Once freed, we can then attach them to a base to hit them with a primer outside. The primer I chose to use was a Vallejo Hobby Paint Wolf Gray Spray Primer. I chose this paint because it was a fairly close match to the TIE Fighter palette from the movies, and I could find an exact matching paint pigment so I could fix any mistakes later. While those are drying outside, I can swap over to my painting mat. For the painting process, each of these starcrafts share the overall same pattern, but I'll go through each craft's process individually. First, I'll start with the TIE Defenders because they are the most technical to paint and will take the most time. Firstly, I will apply a Vallejo model black layer to the wings of the Defender, making sure not to spill too much onto the areas that need to remain blue-gray. The main challenge of the Defender is trying to get the interior of the wings, and it has about 3 times the amount of wing coverage of any of my previous squadrons. Then, I went back in with the Wolf Gray to clean up the sides of the fighter by gliding the edge of my brush along the edge of the wing. To make the cockpit stick out a bit more, I applied a Vallejo Game Color Cold Gray to the surface of it. Then, I applied a blue-black wash to the entirety of the fuselage of the fighter, letting it pool in the cockpit windows a bit. I did struggle not to nick the wings as I did this, so I went back in with the Wolf Gray off camera to fix any presented issues. Next, we can move on to the TIE Phantoms. Overall, they're the same techniques as the Defenders, but with easier access to the wings, less wing surface area, and a larger cockpit. In-game, the Defenders and the Phantoms are practically opposite ships. The Defenders are incredibly durable fighters that deal crazy damage against other fighters and decent damage against large ships. The Defenders also have a few hero pilots that make them real combat threats on the battlefield. On the other hand, TIE Phantoms are more of an objective-based ship. They are less durable and hit a little less hard, but they have some movement buffs to help score victory points faster. I think that the TIE Defenders will regularly be making appearances in my Imperial fleets whenever I use Thrawn as an admiral, since he's one of my favorite Imperial admirals to use. But I'll use the Phantoms when I want to shake up my Imperial fleets a bit. Next, I painted up the Lambda class shuttles. These shuttles have a much simpler scheme than the fighters. They are gray, a black visor for the cockpit. Since there are so few details on this model, I did go back in and make the lines of the cockpit as straight as possible. Then, to bring out the recessed details of the ship, I applied the same blue-black wash to the whole of the ship. Then, once the wash had dried, I applied a heavy dry brush of the Wolf Gray to the whole of the ship to bring back the original detail. Finally, I applied a white layer to the engine area, and then a fluorescent blue on top of it to give it a nice starship quality. Next, I moved on to the VT-49 decimators, which were surprisingly my favorite ship out of this batch. It has all the same techniques of the Lambda, except the fact that it has an additional 2 viewing ports and a cockpit on the top that I painted. In-game, the Decimator is a very slow, tanky ship with a lot of firepower that's very expensive to run, and the Lambda is a very cool strategic ship that makes your other fighters better and helps secure victory points. I think both of these ships will be making regular appearances in my fleet. The Decimators are described as an evil Millennium Falcon, and seemingly is a ship that exists only in a limited amount of Star Wars content. I really like this ship due to its size and scope and overall design, as those are the types of ships that I really enjoy in Star Wars. If it ever makes the jump to the live action, I'm sure I'll geek out. Finally, we get to the Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter, which has a very narrow black cockpit. Then it received the same treatment as the Lambda and the Decimators with a wash, dry brush, and detail. For a final touch on one of the fighters, I decided to add some blue markings so the gauntlet would look a little bit more like a Clan Kryze fighter to match one of the heroes in the game, Fen Rao. The gauntlets are honestly kind of odd ships, which have a mechanic unique to them, and Armada is a complex game enough before I add new things into it, so I'll probably save these ships for special occasions. Once everything has had the chance to dry, we can take all the fighters outside again to apply a matte varnish to protect paint jobs. Once the varnish has set, we can take them back and put them back on their tabletop posts and move on to some glamour shots. I'd like to take this moment to say thank you to each of you who stayed through till the end of this video. I don't consider myself a professional painter, and this video ended up being a little bit more like a painting tutorial than I anticipated. I really appreciate each of your support of my hobby channel. I have many more fighters to paint, and I'll get to them when I can, but I also have a multitude of other dioramas and other stories I'll share in the future. Thank you all again, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good week.